Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, out of PTCGRadio. So today, we're going to be taking a look at some new banned cards in the Pokemon trading card game. And I was so confident these cards were going to be banned, I made this video a little while ago. To be clear, right, from my point of view, obviously I made the video today. From your point of view, I made this video a little while ago. You see, these cards got banned in Japan, and cards that get banned in Japan get banned over here. It happens. It's just the way it is. It is an inevitability. So I'm making this video early. And if it turns out that we've banned extra cards, or we've not banned cards that Japan has banned, I will, of course, edit the video before going up. You know, I'm not a monster. But we're starting off looking at the trainer cards that have gone and been banned, and by my calculation, we are having 5 trainer cards banned. Now, Reset Stamp actually got banned in Japan a little while ago. Got banned in Japan a couple months back. And actually, before we go any further, let's be super clear. These cards are only banned in Expanded. Expanded has so many more options for things that they can do to try and break the game. In Standard, we don't have the same options. But we can't really talk about Reset Stamp without also talking about Island Challenge Amulet. Now, the weird thing is, the Island Challenge Amulet actually came out a fair bit after Reset Stamp was banned. Now, it still is the best way to explain how Reset Stamp can be degenerate. You see, over in Expanded, we've got Jirachi EX. And the thing is that Jirachi EX has 90 HP, and Island Challenge Amulet is a tool whereby when you attach it to an EX or a GX, they have 100 less maximum HP, and then they give up 1 prize when KO'd by damage from an opponent's attack. But Jirachi doesn't have 100 HP. Oh. Yeah. You see, when you attach Island Challenge Amulet to Jirachi, it just gets KO'd. You give your opponent 2 prizes. And that might sound bad, but that's where Reset Stamp comes in. Because if you play a Reset Stamp, your opponent shuffles their hand into their deck, draws a number of cards equal to their remaining prizes. Now, N does the same thing, but N is your once per turn supporter card. Reset Stamp is an item card you could just drop as and when. But you don't just attach an Island Challenge Amulet to Jirachi. You do 2, and then you play Mismagius. Remember that Duskstone can get Mismagius going in a single turn, and Mismagius KOs itself to draw 2, you got 7 cards in hand, and all of a sudden you've now gone down to 1 prize for your opponent to take to win the game, and now you drop Reset Stamp, and your opponent has 1 card left in hand. So you play Mars. And then when you play Mars, your opponent has 0 cards left in hand. That is a very, very, very bad thing indeed. We are not a fan, or at least Japan is not a fan. Japan doesn't like these 0 card hand decks, so they go away. Now, we've also got stuff like Honchkrow GX's GX attack. If your opponent has 2 prizes remaining, you Reset Stamp them down to 2. Use Honchkrow's Unfair GX to put him to a 0 card hand. That could be fun. There's plenty of other ways we can disrupt the hand. I've done in-depth videos about all the Japanese bans. I will link them in the description. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail on all of them here, but if you'd like me to do so, please let me know in the comment section, and I will happily get round to it shortly. But Island Challenge Amulet, to focus in on this, is banned because of Jirachi. Jirachi and Island Challenge Amulet is a broken combo. Now, when we don't have things like Reset Stamp, it's not so broken, you're just giving your opponent prizes. But in a world where we got Island Challenge Amulet and Jirachi and Reset Stamp, it just gets dumb. Why don't we ban Jirachi then? Because Jirachi's good. It's got the same ability as Tapu Lele, except it's got 90 HP, which means it's riskier to play. We like risk reward. And it can also be searched out using things like Level Ball or Hooper EX. So actually, no, we don't want to ban Jirachi. Jirachi is healthy and good, which means we've got to ban Island Challenge Amulet if you want to get rid of this combo, and I know not everybody does. Now, we've talked about Reset Stamp, but another card which is rather similar is Red Card. Red Card also has gone and been banned. And what Red Card does is your opponent shuffles his or her hand into his or her deck and draws 4 cards. Now, this doesn't initially seem quite so egregious here, except you can play this turn 1 going first. And then your opponent starts with 4 cards, except maybe they don't start with 4 cards. Because we've got a whole bunch of hand disruption stuff. We can play stuff like Mars. We can play stuff like, well, if it wasn't banned, Jesse and James, we can play stuff like Honchkrow, and all of a sudden, red card can be used to put your opponent down to a 0 card hand. And maybe things like Honchkrow take a turn to get going, but this could be as simple as you take a turn, your opponent takes a turn, they have a 0 card hand for the rest of the game. Now, a lot of these bans actually came around because of one particular deck focused on Garchomp and Giratina. I have done a video about that deck, I'll link it in the description. And the last 2 bans we need to talk about actually do come off the back of that particular deck. And one of them is Lieutenant Surge's strategy. Because actually, these combos that I keep trying to tell you about, they rely on playing 2 supporters. What you really want to do is KO 2 Jirachis with Island Challenge Amulet, KO Mismagius, and then reset stamp your opponent down to a 1 card hand. And then play Mars to discard a random card from your opponent's hand, but it's only 1. Now in Japan, like I said, for them, reset stamp was actually banned 2 months ago, which is why they've been having to use Lieutenant Surge's strategy to play both N and Mars at the same time. So essentially the best version of this combo uses Reset Stamp, so we ban Reset Stamp, and everyone goes, fine, I'll just use Lieutenant Surge's strategy to play N and Mars in the same turn. Boom, I'm a genius! And Lieutenant Surge, you have to be behind on prizes to use, but nobody really cares, because remember, this combo relies on giving up 5 prizes. So you've got to get rid of Lieutenant Surge's strategy or N. And like we just talked about with Jirachi, we don't want to ban N. N is a good draw card and it is a skillful card. N forces both players to shuffle their hand into their deck and draw a number of cards equal to their remaining prizes. N is your only supporter card for the turn. Now we've banned Lieutenant Surge's strategy anyway, and it's very important that we keep that integrity rolling. Not only that, but if you play enough games where N is legal, you will notice that you get N's down to a small hand size at the perfect time by good players way more often than you do by mediocre or average players. N is a good, skillful card that we like, but Lieutenant Surge's strategy lets you go silly. Incidentally, when you're using stuff like Mismagius, you're going to draw into what you need, and remember that in the expanded format, you got stuff like Shaman as well, so drawing what you need is really not going to be all that difficult. It's not, this combo works. There was a tournament in Japan where, like I say, they had to do the bans because it broke expanded. And we had to have these bans because if we didn't have these bans, expanded would be broken over here. Honestly, the only one I could really see them keeping would be red card. Because red card's not quite so degenerate, it always puts your opponent down to 4, but we got enough hand disruption options that that's going to lead to problems. I don't really think we need to ban red card personally, but I understand why they've done it. I do think that Lieutenant Surge's strategy, Reset Stamp, and Island Challenge Amulet do need to be banned. And the last card that's banned is Chip Chip Ice Axe. Chip Chip Ice Axe is the final piece of the puzzle. What it allows you to do is look at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck, choose one of them to leave on top and shuffle the other 2 in. Now we can actually do the same thing with Hiker, and Hiker is better because you look at the top 5 cards, not the top 3. But then by the same token, that's another supporter, especially when we're banning Lieutenant Surge. No one's worried about Hiker. But if you can put your opponent down to a 0 card hand, the obvious thing to do is just play Chip Chip Ice Axe to give them a bad top deck. And now not only do they not have any cards in hand, but they are definitely not drawing out of it. There's always a chance your opponent's going to top deck a Cynthia or, as we're in expanded, like a Sycamore, and then they're going to be fine. Well, Chip Chip Ice Axe makes sure that they don't. Like I've said, red card is a little bit of an outlier here. But we needed these bans. These bans were going to break the expanded format if we didn't get them. Lieutenant Surge's strategy, Island Challenge Amulet, Reset Stamp, and Chip Chip Ice Axe had to go. And that's why I feel confident recording this video early. Because we have to have the bans. Expanded will be broken if we don't have the bans. So we gotta have the bans. It really is as simple as that. Like I've said, there are other cards we could get rid of instead, but those are all cards that are kind of healthy and help us and lead to a nice, good format with drawing options, and that's just not what we're gonna get rid of. So hopefully I haven't had to do too much editing or adding to this before I post it. But I do want to know what you think about all these bans. Now, incidentally, I'm also expecting a few Pokemon to be banned. 4, incidentally. That's my prediction. But I thought covering 9 new banned cards in one day was, or in one video at least, these videos have both gone up on the same day, was a little bit silly. So I'm assuming that in a short period of time, there'll be one for Pokemon as well. If not, I've probably edited this bit out of the video anyway. Tell me what you think about these bans. Tell me what you think about the direction of the game. But please remember, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.